All right, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's webinar. We are very excited about today's session as we talk about how Aviatrix and Google Cloud are providing customers with enterprise-grade solutions for their cloud workloads. We have a packed session today with some great announcements, but before we get started, I would like to introduce our presenters. Leading the conversation from the Aviatrix side, today will be Shahzad Ali, who is one of our principal solutions architects, and we are extremely excited to welcome Rohith Ramkumar, who is a product lead for Google Cloud, and will be sharing some exciting new announcements with y'all. Before I hand it over to Rohith to kick us off, I wanted to make everyone aware of the Q&A pod at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Please use this for any questions throughout the presentation today, and we will answer them as quickly as possible. In addition to that, though, we will have some dedicated time at the end of today's session for live Q&A. With that, I'll hand it over to Rohith.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. Good morning, and thank you all for attending this session with a focus on the integrated solution that Google Cloud and Network Connectivity Center has done with Aviatrix. My name is, as on the slide, my name is Rohith Ramkumar, and I've been in charge of enterprise networking and specifically around Network Connectivity Center product that aims to accelerate the digital transformation journey that many enterprises are on that we'll get into shortly. I'm going to go ahead and actually share a couple of slides here and then cover some of the portions that we have around Network Connectivity Center, and then transition over to Shahzad as well. So hopefully you can all see my screen right now. Brian or Davina, maybe you can actually just give me the nod that you're able to see my screen, and happy to get started right after that.
We can, looks good.
Okay, perfect, great. So, from a Google perspective, from speaking with a large number of our customers, what we've actually learned, and just give me 1 second here to maybe just change this out. What we've actually learned is a number of enterprises are having to adapt to a number of changes in their business models, created by either their own growth or unprecedented events that are actually shaping their realities. In fact, all of our realities. The businesses that have adapted to and transformed faster, whether that's the neighborhood restaurant or big retailers, have been really thriving. For those who could not adapt to the rapidly changing needs and to be able to scale to meet their needs for remote collaborations and things like that, they've been challenged. So the need that we believe we've identified is really the ability to scale quickly, to adjust their business models, to be able to meet their changing conditions. And ultimately, what they're looking for is really fundamentally a much more flexible, reliable network. And the network in particular is critical to this digital transformation journey. It's because enterprises now will have to extend their networks to be able to reach out to their workforce, to be able to deliver their workloads, to connect to partners, and to actually meet their customers where they're residing. And that task is a continually shifting and sort of changing landscape. So with that need, an enterprise that needs to scale and meet their needs in a geographically more diverse perspective, what they really are looking for is a connectivity and security model in order to be able to sort of maintain their business productivity. Today, with what they have, the network is actually pretty complex, and we feel like the network while it's a critical component, it's probably best kept simple. So again, to look at what they are working with today, they oftentimes have a number of different distributed branches where they operate various forms of connectivity, whether that's private WAN services like MPLS, or in some cases use the internet, sometimes in backup, throwing in various SDWAN solutions in order to get and obtain the best visibility and sort of balance their connectivity profiles to deliver application policy. They then have to mesh that into the cloud environment, which spans on-prem private data center environments, as well as the public clouds and access to SaaS services. This typically means that they're operating with multiple control and data planes, and ultimately it results in a pretty complex network that all has to be managed. And we think that a solution that can be delivered from a single point has some great value. And a couple of key aspects to what that solution would need to have in order to support these digital transformation journeys is that they are simple, open, flexible, and performant. What do we mean by that? We believe that the ability to orchestrate the actual network from a software-based perspective, while being open and flexible enough to work with third-party solutions to create an overall ecosystem that scales and meets the needs of individual customers is extremely important. We, make different choices for different reasons, and Google is very open to promoting choice within our own customer base, and it's been very core to how we've approached sort of the cloud journey, and certainly the same as we approach how we feel that enterprise networking should be created as well. And I'll touch a little bit more about that. But also, when we talk about connectivity in sort of the modern age, we do expect a degree of performance that we aim to deliver. And it's certainly very key to Google's infrastructure. It's very key to sort of the Google DNA. We've been built for large global scale, and we leverage a deep set of traffic engineering principles on our own network. And with NCC, a portion of that is making that available to our customers. So what is the vision that we see for our enterprise networking customers, and how are we trying to address their needs there? Well, Network Connectivity Center is an extremely critical part of that journey. You can consider it a vantage point into Google's networking infrastructure, and it's designed to simplify complex heterogeneous networks that span multiple clouds, private data centers, and enterprise sites, whether those are branch offices, etc. It also embraces many of our partners and integrated technology providers, and we'll go into a special relationship that we've had with Aviatrix and look at some of what we can unlock jointly. But NCC fundamentally creates a single vantage point and a hub and spoke logical model for customers to bring in their various networks, representing them as spokes, whether they're connected sort of physically with our partner and dedicated interconnect products for typically large scale connectivity, high bandwidth connectivity, or whether it's VPN connectivity over the internet to things like branch offices, etc. We also open and extend that, obviously, to bring in and to extend the benefits of various partner solutions into GCP, treating them all as part of the same ecosystem, leveraging the best of Google's infrastructure. So what we really have tried to deliver here is a single environment that is supported by Google's infrastructure, and there are a number of new things that are firsts that Google will extend to, leveraging sort of Google's network. For the very first time, customers can enable site-to-site connectivity as well. So typically in the past, when Google has thought about its network, it's really thought about the outbound journey, the egress journey, in which one end is a connected resource on Google. That could be a VM, that could be a service that a customer is accessing and delivered over Google's network. With NCC, all of that is possible as you connect components in through the NCC. Certainly you can use Google's network to connect to them, but we also, for branch offices and data centers, will now allow connectivity over Google's network to connect data centers and branch offices connected into Google, and then to be able to go across Google's network. So to be very clear, there's some new componentry that we've been working on that allows connectivity to, through, and within Google via NCC. Specific to the through use case, so when we're really talking about what we call the NCC site-to-site data transfer, we are beginning to roll that out at a global level. So again, NCC, in terms of connectivity into Google, is a global resource. It can be spun up in any region available at Google, but the site-to-site capability is limited today as of GA. Obviously, NCC is just a little over a month into GA, but we have all the regions supported in the US, UK, India, Australia, and Japan for the site-to-site use case, and that we're in a fast trajectory to being able to open up more geos and locations. But the site-to-cloud use cases, it will be supported globally, and so it's out of every region that we have. And again, this is a network that we continue to build and grow, and we keep adding regions in a number of years. And I think Google feels strongly that it wants to maintain the best, largest public cloud network as well. And so we continue to aspire to grow the density and distribution of our entry and exit points into the network that we provide. So again, with regards to where NCC is today, what we're really doing is we're simplifying. We're providing a single point around which connectivity architectures can be created. We're making it really easy for provisioning in terms of creating logical networks, and obviously being open to integrated partner and technology providers. And I'm very excited to hear more from Shahzad shortly with regards to how Aviatrix has integrated, and some of the use cases are really quite fascinating as well. But ultimately, what we're looking to provide is an operational efficiency for many of our customers, leveraging the best of Google delivered over NCC. With that, let me transition over to Shahzad and to look over some of the amazing use cases that Aviatrix delivers in conjunction with Google Cloud.
All right, thanks Rohit, thanks a lot. So let's cover some of the important enterprise needs first, right? Because going back to what you mentioned, Rohit, when we see these customers, enterprise customers especially, adopting the cloud journey, there are very specific and unique needs that they have, right? So obviously, a lot of enterprise customers are coming from the on-premise background. So what they need control, first of all, for their own destiny, for their own journey, right? And in the process, what we have seen that this world is actually a multi-cloud world, right? What they're looking for, the first thing is the architecture approach, because this is what they have followed in the on-premise world. When they come to the cloud, they want to make sure that the networks that they're building are well architected. And what they also want is a common ground for their single cloud or multi-cloud adoption, right? So the architecture or the control that they want to provide should be a common, standard, and repeatable architecture across the board, right? And cloud has taken great momentum out there, but there is still networks and data centers and branches out there that's going to be on-prem for some time, right? So it's very important that we also extend the benefits and advantages of cloud to those on-prem resources. Could be the data center, could be the private cloud, could be SD-WAN, or could be the enterprise branches, as we have seen before. The second most important thing I would say is visibility into the network, into the connectivity, like you mentioned, and also provide this observability to their end customers. Okay, so nobody likes black boxes, so they want deep insights into what's happening in their networking world. It could be the NetFlow data that they want to collect, or could be troubleshooting tool that they're dealing with, but they want to have total control over this portion as well, to provide the visibility that their enterprise customer or their clients need, with the proper optimization, with the trend analysis, with the proper data operations in control. And the last and most important thing, and this is also, again, Google Cloud has been preaching a lot, is to have this all secure, right? Because we know the ransomwares are happening every day, malwares are there, there are attacks happening pretty much every second as we speak, right? So it's very important that we have a notion of not only detecting those threats, but also guarding against those threats in a fashion which is self-service, right? Which is kind of auto healing, right? And this is very important to provide the audit compliance reporting that is needed for the enterprise workload. Now, how do we actually solve this? So Aviatrix has been there for 7+ years in the market. And the whole platform is actually based on the enterprise needs or challenges that I mentioned before. So what we have done, we have created a very powerful platform with very simple components. So the first thing that you see here is the Aviatrix controller virtual machine, which you can deploy directly from the Google Cloud Marketplace. So once you have this controller is a kind of a multilingual device that can talk to the cloud native Google Cloud APIs and services. But if a customer or enterprise needs to go more or go beyond those constructs, they can actually deploy Aviatrix gateways in a hub and spoke fashion and provide advanced networking and security capabilities, right? So these orange circles you see here are the Aviatrix Transit Gateway. Then you have spoke gateways deployed in the Google Cloud VPCs, and that's how they build the architecture, a proper architecture for the enterprises, right? And then we have a partnership with other third-party vendors. For example, in the service insertion area, we have Checkpoint, Palo Alto, Fortinet, and that's how we actually are providing all these benefits to our enterprise customers. Another important thing to remember that this architecture, what you're deploying is actually under your control, right? It goes back to the control I mentioned before. This is not a SaaS service, so you have it deployed under your projects, under your accounts, so you have total control over it. Now, when it comes to extending this network across multiple clouds, you will notice that the architecture actually follows. So it's a repeatable architecture that creates this abstraction, so you don't have to worry about going into Azure, AWS, or Oracle, or Alibaba Cloud, because we are providing this abstraction layer with the automation done through Terraform. Because automation is very important. A lot of customers are using it. We have full support with Terraform and also with the API that we have, right? And then last piece here is the CoPilot component, which is actually ingesting all this data and everything happening in your multi-cloud or cloud world and providing it to this CoPilot instance, which is again running in your own project, right? So this provides multi-cloud operational visibility and compliance that you desire. Now, what is the blueprint? How does it look like if you are considering your journey only in Google Cloud, for example? So a lot of customers are using our platform to solve a lot of challenges that enterprises have, right? For example, the common and unified control plane is delivered through this Aviatrix controller. So once the controller is there, it's building this proper network architecture, which is encrypted by default. And as you can see, there are different layers in this architecture. So you have the app layer, transit layer, then you have the access layer, so you can connect to your on-prem resources, and then the operation and security pillars goes across the board. So with that, we are providing the advanced BGP, traffic engineering, overlapping IP is a very important use case in merger and acquisition scenarios. So we are delivering that with this platform. And by the way, this is all we have been doing even before the integration with NCC. So NCC integration is the next step in the partnership, which is taking this partnership even further, which I'm going to talk about in my coming slides. So with the Cloud Access, we already have support for the remote branches, could be SD-WAN, could be enterprise branches. In the security area, a very powerful use case is micro-segmentation or network segmentation, which allows our customers to kind of segment the workload based on their business needs or based on their CI/CD pipeline. For example, if you have some VPCs that are prod, for example, green, and it should not be allowed to talk to the blue VPCs, which could be a dev VPC, you can actually create a policy-based model with our controller. You can apply it, and this will be applied across the board, not only in Google Cloud, but also if you have a multi-cloud scenario out there. Right, network operations are very important. I'm going to touch upon a little bit more towards the end of my session. And then when you're building this network, the most important thing to remember is that all the Google Cloud services are available to you. So we are not taking anything away, right? So if you are using Google Cloud in a shared VPC model or Cloud Functions or GKE or Anthos, regardless of those services, the platform that we are building take advantage of those and extend them and provide additional capabilities on top of it. So that's the blueprint in Google Cloud if you're only in Google Cloud. In the next slide, what I'm going to do, I'm going to just click next, and you will notice that since we are following a multi-cloud network architecture, everything will remain the same. So all the benefits that you are getting in Google Cloud are now extended automatically to other cloud. In this example, I have Azure, but it could be AWS, Alibaba, or OCI. It doesn't really matter, because once you have this abstraction layer, all the benefits are part of it, and then they can be extended to other clouds as well. So if you are connecting multiple clouds for disaster avoidance or disaster recovery needs, this is automatically done through our platform. So you have advanced BGP, ASPath prepend, and other capabilities that would allow you to have this highly available network in place. So in case something goes wrong or some link is down between the Google Cloud and the Azure, you have the backup path automatically available to make sure you provide the business continuity for your enterprises. Okay. All right, so now let's talk about the Aviatrix and Google Cloud Network Connectivity Center integration. So we are very pleased to announce that we have this integration as part of our platform now. And now let's take a look at some reference architecture and some technical details. Okay, so when you look at the landscape out there, and this is what Rohit also mentioned, that a lot of enterprises, they are still figuring out the connectivity model from on-prem to cloud. Could be SD-WAN, could be data center, or could be enterprise branch. So these are the three important use cases we are also tackling with our integration. Okay, so the first one is connecting Google Cloud to your on-premise data center. In the Google Cloud, they have a private offering called Cloud Interconnect, which allows customers to connect to their on-prem data center with a private connectivity model, right? So we actually adopt that. We have the integration in our platform, which allows our customers to connect their on-premise data center to GCP Cloud Router. And then with the NCC integration, our transit gateway that you see here becomes a router appliance in the NCC model. And this router appliance attaches to the NCC hub, right? So once you attach it to NCC hub, now you're participating in this model, and you can exchange the routes, you can receive the route, you can exchange the context. So you have full integration with the NCC model in this fashion. Okay, so while you have done that, remember the other benefits I mentioned you before, like the service insertion, overlapping IP, or the encrypted transit. All those benefits are still available. It's just that we are taking this partnership to a next level, right? So those are all applicable and available. Now, if you want to extend this model to other cloud, or if you want other clouds to also take advantage of these Google Cloud services, it's again a very simple and seamless operation. Within a single click, within few minutes, you can provide this connectivity from Google Cloud Platform to other clouds, right? And here we have two different type of models again. So the first model is to provide this transit to transit connectivity, right? So let's say in public cloud A, you have large number of workloads, and you want to make sure you have your own service insertion done there, all the use cases that we spoke about. Then you can create this connectivity. You can build a hub and spoke model in the other cloud, and that's how you can connect your Google Cloud to other cloud, right? Other model on the left-hand side is that if you have not too many workloads in the other cloud, and if you just want a basic connectivity from this public cloud B to Google Cloud Platform, because majority of your platforms are sitting here, maybe you are using some IoT use cases or some other use cases that would require you to be present in the other cloud, you can simply create a spoke VPC, drop a spoke gateway, and connect it to our Aviatix transit in this fashion, right? So with this model, you are taking advantage of all the benefits that are provided by the Google Cloud Platform. So that's the data center model. Now, the other type of connectivity is through the enterprise WAN branches. So the WAN branches are sitting out there, could be a retail location, could be a bank ATM, doesn't really matter. If that is the requirement you have with the integration, what you can do again is provide this branch connectivity into Google Cloud using the HAVPN native functionality. This is the GCP native functionality. And then once you have this HAVPN connected to GCP NCC, they can actually participate in the entire multi-cloud network architecture with Aviatrix platform, right? So the same technology is present here, where this transit gateway is the router appliance connected to NCC hub. And now your workloads or the branches are now connected to the Google Cloud platform resources. Could be a GKE use case, or could be some other services, for example, BigQuery, or some analytics that they want to reach out to. You can actually have this all connected in this fashion. And then if you want to extend it to other cloud, right? So the same models are possible. You can have this connectivity done to other clouds using single click. It could be a Terraform that you write, which will get it done in a matter of seconds, to be honest. Okay, so that's the Google Cloud to Enterprise WAN branch model. And the last model is with the SD-WAN branches. So SD-WAN branches, when they need to connect to Google Cloud, typically what they do, they deploy the SD-WAN edge router in your GCP or Google Cloud project. So branches will connect to this WAN edge router. The edge router will have connectivity or attachment to GCP. The Aviatrix transit gateway has this attachment done. And then once they are connected to GCP NCC hub, we can exchange the routes, we can have the full context, and we'll get the benefit of all the Google Cloud services and branch to branch connectivity, branch to cloud connectivity. If the traffic needs to go out towards some SaaS services, those are all the use cases possible with this integration. Okay, so the third pillar, if you remember in my slide, was the visibility piece. And this is where the Aviatrix CoPilot comes into picture. So Aviatrix CoPilot is a compliance, visibility, and data operation component in the platform. So what it does basically, as you are building your network, right? It could be in Google Cloud or other clouds. The data is actually ingested by this CoPilot, okay? And we're getting all the telemetry data, the NetFlow data through the APIs, and we are kind of correlating it and providing you this rich operational visibility into your cloud or multi-cloud network. So I'll give you some examples here. Obviously, you need to take a look at the demo to get the full feeling of this platform. But on the left-hand side, what you see is a topology view. So as you are building your network, these topologies are built at runtime. Okay, so you don't have to worry about logging into 25 different tabs and figuring out how the connectivity is done between my Google Cloud resources or from Google Cloud to some other cloud. Right, so that's visualization is there. And then we also providing this heat map to you for you to see where exactly your traffic patterns are happening. Who is actually coming into your network, leaving from your network, or the data that is traversing inside your network. And you can slice and dice this data based on different parameters and different widgets that we provide you. Right, in the bottom, you see the intelligent traffic analysis. So it's very important for you to know the trends happening in your network. It could be an anomaly that you want to detect, or it could be a DDoS type attack that you are worried about. So these trends will help you get to the resolution of those problems. And the right-hand side, you see the audit or topology replay map. So as these networks are built or tore down or changes are happening in the network, we will keep track of all those changes for the audit purposes and also to play back those topologies, right? So you can go back in time. There is a slider there. You can go back in time. You can look at what the topology was 2 months ago and what you have right now and what changed in between with the proper audit control in place. And the last piece, which is very important as part of the CoPilot, is the threat detection. And not only threat detection, but guarding against those threats in automated fashion. Right, so the CoPilot is getting the data, the malicious data from renowned threat databases. And as these threats are happening, we will actually show you on a topology map. We'll show you their severity. We'll tell you what those threats are, where they're coming from. And not only that, we can also create a policy to block those threats automatically. So if a machine or virtual machine is got impacted somehow, we will look at this threat data, and based on this data, we'll automatically block the traffic leaving from the virtual machine or getting into the virtual machine. So that's the very powerful Aviatrix CoPilot Threat IQ and Threat Card feature that we have as part of the platform. Okay, so that's what I wanted to cover. Now let's go back and take a look at the QA panel and see if we have any.
Great, thanks, Shazad. Yeah, we had a couple of really good questions come through. I'll just pick a handful and throw them out to you and Rohit to answer. So one of the first ones that came in was one of the attendees has a customer that's using Azure and Google Cloud as well. And the customer is acquiring a company in China and wants to expand some of those services to the China branches. If Aviatrix is used in conjunction with NCC, can the China branches leverage services that are based in these other clouds?
Yes.
I'm happy to take a little bit of that up front on the NCC side. So Google operates regions outside of China and Hong Kong in which NCC will be available. Fundamentally, though, the real question is whether those branches would be connecting over, an IPsec tunnel or with Aviatrix. Fundamentally, if it's an internet-based connectivity into Google, that connectivity will function. Obviously, we'd obviously need to have a region in China, which currently Google does not, if they were looking for dedicated connectivity. But if it's internet-based connectivity, that should work.
Yeah. So just to add to that, Rohit, we have some customers that are leveraging Aviatrix platform to provide that sort of connectivity, because we have partnership with Alibaba as well. So if a customer needs to connect their on-premise locations or branches, could be a manufacturing plant, to a local cloud, which could be Alibaba, they can have it connected there. And from Alibaba, you can connect it to Google Cloud, and then you can provide this connectivity for your branches in China if you need to. So we have the deployment models, we have the reference model, we have customers using it in this fashion. If you need to know more about that, please email us at gcp@aviatrix.com, and we will be happy to help you.
I like this question for a number of different reasons. In fact, Shazad, I think, fundamentally it summarizes, a lot of the work that we've been sort of doing together, essentially to showcase some of the strengths and benefits that Aviatrix brings. Obviously, NCC is building a platform in which, we maintain sort of an open, scalable, robust, and simple architecture for connectivity. And it extends to many of the use cases that Shazad has spoken about with regards to hybrid and multi-cloud. We know that multi-cloud is an extremely important piece, as this question has elicited. It fundamentally is about, enabling customers to create, connect, and consume resources regardless of where they are. And that's really the fundamentals of the choice that we're trying to enable. And if you look at the nature of the integration itself, the Aviatrix component, when Shazad mentioned, a router appliance, and that's, referring to the specific spoke type, it's fundamentally a, if you want to call it a first-class citizen from a routing and networking perspective within the sort of Google ecosystem. So there's a lot of flexible reasons and scalability reasons why the integration through NCC makes sense, especially with regards to Aviatrix, especially in a global context like this question brought up.
Great, fantastic. Yeah, so one other question, and Rohit, maybe you can take a stab at this. So we've recently seen that Google Cloud usage has increased. What are some of the different sort of personas or verticals that you're seeing that may be adopting it a bit more?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, at Google Cloud, there are a number of different areas that we're looking to help our enterprise customers with. We're obviously, I think first and foremost, we're building out our service networking portfolio. So this is customers who are not really thinking about their network in terms of really sites per se. They're really thinking about it in terms of application delivery. And so, being able to natively sort of create a service and have, the deployment and delivery of that service in an automated service-based fashion is key. And so some of the constructs are moving beyond sort of the layer 3, layer 4 areas into areas that are sort of automated. And Google has fundamentally looked at solving many of these pieces as well. Like we operate a global VPC. In many ways, our service networking portfolio with products like Private Service Connect, PSC, and Service Directory enable customers to very easily deploy their applications and services in a native services fashion. And so we've started to see some traction with that. But as we continue to do so, and I think it's very relevant to the conversation here, we will have an ecosystem in which sort of infrastructure networking and service networking components will be able to interoperate from a sort of unified policy perspective. And so some of those areas are really where NCC, again, becomes a key vantage point that extends beyond sort of layer 3, layer 4 infrastructure-based services into sort of the service networking, or in support of service networking constructs and realms as well. And so that's, you know, some of the areas in which we're growing. There are other areas sort of around CDN and other components that we're also working on that are also driving the charge there with regards to the usage. But you know, fundamentally, it's really about building a unified ecosystem and just simplifying the lives of many of the thousands of customers on Google Cloud.
Great, fantastic. Yeah, so maybe one more question, or if you can take a stab at this, and then Shahzad, maybe you can come in and add some color. So we spent a lot today talking about NCC and network connectivity, but it's, you know, one of the things that we see quite a bit is how security plays into that. So what do you guys see that enterprises are really struggling with the most when it comes to networking and security in the cloud? And do you think there are any common challenges or themes that sort of underpin that?
I'm happy to take that, or Shahzad can take a stab at it, and I'm happy to chime in whichever way works best.
Yeah, whoever wants to tackle it first.
I can.
Okay, go ahead, Shahzad.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so the security, like I mentioned, is a very important topic for the enterprises, especially if you recall when the whole cloud momentum was started 10, 12, 13 years ago, the security was the biggest concern. And I see that these platforms, the CSPs, they have advanced a lot, right? They have provided a lot of security security services and options to the customer. So one notion is what I see is a notion of security is a shared responsibility, right? And with my experience and talking to the large enterprises, they actually don't buy into that, right? Because what happens that when you create this type of a notion that security is a shared responsibility, it does not fly very well with the compliance and the audit teams. Because if a breach happens, something happens with your network, or if you have a problem with the ransomware or something, the InfoSec team or security teams are in the line to answer like why it happened. So the most important thing for me or to enterprises to remember is that you need to take control of your own destiny, of your own networking, your own security. It's not a shared responsibility. It is your responsibility, right? So you need to provide all those hooks and guardrails in place. And there is no one size fit all when you talk about the security, right? So the cloud providers will definitely do their best to provide you all the security tools and services, but you also need to take care of the service insertion or the threat that I mentioned before, right? It's a threat guard or threat detection or stopping those threats from happening since the beginning, right? So that's what I would like to lay out there.
I can throw in a little bit. From a Google Cloud perspective, we see security playing out in a couple of different ways. There's obviously network security, and when we talk about network security, there's sort of east-west communications happening between different application developers across orgs, in which traffic flows need to be secured, right? Even within two sort of business units, you may still want to have the need to apply various firewall filtering policies in terms of how you deploy your apps and share your apps across your own org. There's also the north-south security profile, in which you have hybrid sites or external users accessing some of the applications that are being deployed. That's where NCC, and I'm happy to further the conversation around this, is looking to maybe extend some capabilities to be able to insert those services. It's certainly something that is closely on our roadmap, and we obviously will be extending, as our roadmap develops, some of those benefits extend into solutions with Aviatrix. And again, it's a matter of choice. There'll be a couple of different ways that you can implement both east-west and north-south. Going beyond that, Google has always had a couple of different other perspectives on security. There's obviously the zero trust security suite of services as well that Google offers. It's an entirely separate value proposition, but happy to further that conversation as well with regards to, sort of going beyond the network and taking security much more broadly per se. But happy to have that separate conversation in a deep dive if needed.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you both for the answers, and to the attendees for the great questions. So with that, Shahzad, if you want to throw up your deck to close this out.
Yeah, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Thanks again. Thanks a lot, Rohit, and also all the attendees joining today. So we should not stop this conversation here. We should talk more. If you have a specific need about your Google Cloud or any other cloud, to be honest, please reach out to us and we will connect you to the right resources. The connection or the communication is very simple and easy. You can just simply email us at gcp@aviatix.com, or you can go back to our website, which is talks.aviatix.com, and look at all the different collateral, the integration, different design guides, reference architectures, and whatnot, right? We have also published this blog on our community site, which talks about the reference architecture that I mentioned during my presentation. And we also have links back to Google Cloud, where they talk about the partnership and what other options are there for you to consume in the Google Cloud and Google Cloud plus NCC space. If you need to talk to us in a kind of a one-on-one fashion, we are happy to take that. So we can have a customized design session for you. So please schedule calls with us and discuss your unique requirements. The last but not the least is the certification, right? So the education is very important. A lot of customers are adopting this cloud journey and they need help. Okay, so we have created this certification program, which is the first in the industry for multi-cloud networking certification. Please take advantage of that. You can use our coupon code, which will waive the entry fees and whatnot, right? So the link is there. Please do let us know, how do you think about this session? There is a survey out there. And again, thanks a lot for joining.